What's up, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of the Envision Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Brad's Gaming, and as always, I'm joined by Connor Show
Hello, everybody.
and Triple Bravo
Howdy, folks.
and Jessica Simpson. That's me. Anyways,
Mhm.
now we are just three guys who are passionate about video games, and we all have different interests in them. So hopefully, we can cover all the avenues for you. Today's main topic: we are going to be running down a handful of games from E3 that we are excited about. We wanted to give you a full episode of E3, but we sat down, recorded it, and it just wasn't really up to our standards. So we learned a lot from it. We decided to scrap the actual podcast, and now we know what to prepare for with the next big conference that comes over. So, anyways, hopefully we didn't disappoint you guys. But how's your weeks, man, going?
Doing pretty good. Yeah, I had an eventful week. Oh boy, I hope I can talk. Uh, so I purchased Legend of Dragoon from eBay because I can't find my OG copy. Kind of sad about it. I've decided I'm going to play through and defeat that game once and for all. For those of you who maybe did not catch that in the previous discussion, I had that as a child, never could get past the first disc because I never had a save card. Uh, Other than that, I purchased a bus. Yes,
Bus.
a whole school bus. I've been on the prowl for about a month and a half. It's been a long-standing dream of mine to build my own RV. I used to be a gypsy and live in an RV. So I'm going to build one, kind of from scratch, use the shell of the bus to craft a home that is also mobile that I can also charge a fee for people to travel in. Maybe not that last bit, but it was a cool story. Long story short, rental companies to have very low inventory for cars. So I fly to St. Louis. I try to get a rental car. That's a nil. No cars whatsoever. And I think I'm going to be clever. And I get a U-Haul. And I order it online. And I call them in the morning because I feel like something's up. So I call them in the morning before I get out of my hotel. I'm like, hey, you guys got my car? My vehicle? And they're like, oh, no, it's in this other town. You have to go pick it up. Like, well, that's not very convenient because I'm at the airport. And they're like, oh, we're so sorry, sir. There's nothing we can do. And I say, okay. Uber. How much would an Uber cost to get me an hour outside of St. Louis? It actually turned out to be the cheapest option as long as I'm going one way. So I get in this Uber, have a talk with this gentleman. Amazing guy. I tried to convince him to start his own podcast. I'll keep you posted if he actually does because I got his business card. Pretty cool dude. Very down to earth gentleman. His name's Kevin. He drops me off at the bus place. They're a reseller. I go inspect this bus. It's immaculate. It's what every man dreams of in a bus. I slip him the check. I get booted out the door because I ask way too many questions. I drive that sucker back from Illinois all the way to Oklahoma. No problems whatsoever. It was a great drive. I got a little suntan because I drove into the sun for 11 hours. And that's the story. And I'm sticking to it.
So
You still look white as a ghost.
Well, I burn and then like overnight, I just get a little bit more red, and then I'm tan.
I can see a little bit of the red. Yeah, it's there. So, are you keeping the bus yellow?
Oof, no. It will be one of the last things I do, but I plan on coating it in like a rhino liner type of material. It's it's like anti-nature, right? It never degrades. We use it at my work. Uh, Never loses color. It's like this plastic polyurethane coating. I'm just gonna coat the whole thing.
Hmm.
I don't
Okay.
know what
Windows
color.
and all.
Yeah, I don't know what color I'm gonna pick yet, but it'll be dark because I'm not a light color kind of person.
Hot pink.
I feel like you're just gonna go basic black, simple. You know,
I mean, black is
keep it simple.
hot.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm thinking
True.
prison gray, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Joe,
Keep a
how are
stop
you?
sign on it.
How have you been, Joe?
I've been good. Not too eventful of a week. got a few pickups to add to the old Zelda collection, though. We picked up the Phantom Hourglass for the DS. We picked up my Holy Grail, which was the Ocarina of Time Collector's Edition, complete in box. Cost me way more than I would have liked to pay for it, but gotta have it.
Wow.
And then I also got the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Japanese edition, just because
What?
I think the box is awesome.
It does look sick. It
All
really
right.
does.
Challenge. If you can play through that completely without any problems, I'll give you $1.
Make it 2, and you got a deal.
I will give you a crisp $2 bill.
All you got to do is
So
clip that little the plastic thing in the N64, and you can play any
yeah,
region game.
No.
or I'll
no.
just import a Japanese N64 too.
That too.
So, like the complete in box, Ocarina of Time for US version is like $180. The complete in box Japanese version I got for 22.
What?
Now, was it a US seller also? Because I
No,
feel like
it's
shipping would be.
it's coming straight from Japan. Like the
Mm.
guy is
Whoa.
messaging me in Japanese, and I have to use Google Translate.
I see. I'm like afraid to order something too far away. Actually, I had somebody just recently message me about a Yu-Gi-Oh card that I got from one of those binders on the flea market, and it's like, "You ship to Argentina?" I'm like, I don't know. And then I started looking up, doing some research, and I found out that Argentina is like one place that eBay does not cover for some
Whoa.
reason. I don't know what it is, but super quick, and I'm just like, I'm gonna ignore that message.
I,
I don't
I'm,
even know.
I'm kind of ignorant to eBay. Is that
Mhm.
does the buyer cover the shipping?
So you can choose whether you want to have the buyer pay the shipping, or you can make it free shipping. So I was going to make any card purchase like free because it's like 50 cents, you know, where a video game, if it's just one, roughly, it's like $4 on average, I would say.
Yeah.
Somewhere between $3.80 to $5 is roughly what it is.
Gotcha.
So
Roger.
yeah,
Very
I
very
paid
interesting.
23 for my Ocarina of Time complete in
shipping.
box. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem about when you, because I have seen some stuff in the UK that I'm like, maybe I'll pick it up, and then it's like game's like $5, shipping's 23.
Yeah, I mean, even with like this game though, I got it for a deal with the bid. So like the game sells for like 350 in the condition he has it.
Ooh.
So and I
Mm.
paid 312 after shipping.
Too bad you're never gonna sell
Never.
it.
It'll be the last. I'll sell my house before I sell that.
Ever. Nice. Brad, how's your week been?
So mine's been a little more eventful, not in the gaming side though. Been just busy in general, house hunting, the usual.
Oh God.
No, but so the fiance and I have been working to actually post her current house for sale. So Sunday we spent the entire time rushing along trying to do basic work such as raking, raking the yard, which like I can't. My OCD sits there and I'm constantly in the same spot. I'm like working this little like 2 foot by 2 foot square. It's like I'm gonna get every one of these. I swear.
Brad's
And
out
then,
there with tweezers, just
yep,
plucking
plucking them like they're a little
6-year-old
eyebrow.
6-year-old tree fallings. Just
But no, we ended up doing just a bunch of stuff, moving things in general, and so once the lady got there afterwards, we were trying to move things out of the way for the pictures because she has like an old pool that's by the garage. Move it out of the way, so she takes pictures so the old pool's not in the way because
Mhm.
we just need to run it to the dump. And one of the things is she has sheet metal for her roof, and like a whole ton of it. She was gonna redo her roof. She just didn't have anybody to come and do it actually. And so this thing, it's just awkward. It's not really, it's heavy, but it's awkward as hell. And when we moved it, I swear on everything that the largest spider I've ever seen in my life was on this thing. It had to be the size of like my kneecap, like the body of it. It was insane how big the spider was, and thank God she was on the side where the spider was.
Did you push her into it? No.
I told her that if that spider was near me, I was flying to Jamaica right then and there. There was no questions about it. I was going. It was gone. Um, but that. Video game aspects. I have a tragedy story right now. So, I was supposed to have something delivered today. It told me it was delivered. I checked. There's nothing out there. I'm looking around. One of two things happened. Number one, which is probably the most likely, is my downstairs neighbors got the package and they're gonna put it on my porch tomorrow. Or two, somebody stole my fourth copy of Mort the Chicken off of my porch.
I saw where that one was going.
It is an absolute tragedy. So
That is
Yeah.
awesome. I mean,
I'm
not
very-
that you lost it, but that you acquired a fourth copy.
You're gonna collect every copy of the game besides that one, and it's gonna haunt you for the rest of your life.
I'm gonna be like, there's someone out there around where I live that has Mort the Chicken. And my favorite thing is this: when somebody, if somebody did steal it, let's say, when they open it up and they're like, "What is this?" They go put it in. They're like, all right, Mort the Chicken. They put it in. They just regret everything. They come put it back on my porch with like $1. Sorry.
I like how you have faith that somebody could actually play that. Like they have everything they need to play it.
Yeah.
That's a
probably.
positive outlook on the world. I like it.
Yeah, everybody has at least something they play PlayStation 1 game, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You got PS1, PS2, PS3. It's gonna happen somewhere. But yeah, other than that, pretty simple. So, moving forward from that though, last episode we actually asked the audience to give us a game that we thought everybody should play, and one of you wrote in, gave us Animal Crossing New Leaf, saying that it's a great slice of life game, and it's also one that's made to be played a little bit every day rather than all the time. New Leaf was also the peak of Animal Crossing games. So, if you're a big Animal Crossing,
Animal
Animal
Crosser.
Crossing, yeah, if you're the villager guy, you're an Animal Crossing guy, girl, whatever. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. I know a lot of people love the Switch Animal Crossing game. That had a lot of hype. I've played a very little bit of Animal Crossing. What about you guys?
I think it's a
Play-
good addition to the list. Sorry, Joe. I think it's a
No, you're good.
good addition to the list. Not something I would have picked, but the moment that I read it, I was like, yes, that is a good one.
I have played a bit of the GameCube one, which this may be that one. I don't know the title.
GameCube one
But-
is just Animal Crossing.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
Hmm.
And then I played the newest, which
New
was
Horizons?
Yes, for the Switch, which wasn't for me. I played a ton of it for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I made it my goal to get every fruit tree. And then I got every fruit tree, and I was like, all right, I beat it.
Mission complete. Yep. I finished it. My goal is to have Tom Nook's head on my front porch.
Jesus. But no, I definitely think it is a game that everyone should play. It's very relaxing, and it's made for everybody. I mean,
I was kind of surprised that we didn't even think about this. It does fit our list almost perfectly though, because anybody could play it, any age, anybody in general. So yeah, definitely thank you for your input. Thank you for the feedback, everybody. If you want to give us more of your thoughts, obviously hit us up on Twitter, YouTube, throw us out there an email at envisiongamingpodcast@gmail.com. But moving forward, we'll play another round of Guess the Game Price for between Joe and Bravo.
Oh, yeah. I'm coming
Best
back
two out
with a
of three.
vengeance.
Yes. We got
my undefeated streak alive.
Joe's got 1 win, Bravo's 0 right now.
We don't have to talk about
Yeah, best 2 out of 3, and the games are complete in box for everybody to know. Guessing to the nearest dollar, just in case somebody missed the last episode. You could always look forward to going back and listening to it though. Anyways, so game number 1 is going to be Gears of War 2 on the Xbox 360.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
I was not expecting so new.
Yep. Going new. A little newer.
Okay.
There's only like 8 games out. This was the second of them, but it's really new.
Gears
Yeah,
of War
well,
2. So this is
I
physical
think he-
copy.
Physical
Yep,
copy.
physical, complete in
in
box. Yep. So, by the way, Joe, what I'm thinking he's saying is as new like 360 era. You know.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought he was going to be like, oh, well, this ancient game from beyond times.
more
The Turbo
champion.
Graphics 16. Yeah.
Joe, you won, so you have to go first so I can $1 you.
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
do this.
$40.
$40.
Yep.
Okay.
$84, Bob.
84. You guys,
Jesus.
you
Look at
guys
the-
think this game is worth a lot of money?
I do, and I regret my decision immediately.
Yeah, because okay, the closest person was $32 off.
You're
It's
welcome.
only $8.
The game is worth $8.
Oh my god!
Wow.
Wow, he
Complete in
Gears
box.
2 was the best one.
Yeah,
Brad,
they're
I thought-
extremely common.
I thought you
Yeah,
were
that
coming
makes
at us
sense.
with like a I don't know, like a layered approach. You're like, oh, I'm gonna go really expensive. Mort the Chicken,
So-
$300, complete in box, signed by the developers, whole team.
I want to give you guys, you know, this is the tough thing about it. There's like no rhyme or reason. A game, you would think a game like Gears of War, right, would be expensive because one, it's beloved, and everybody's probably going to want a copy of Gears of War at some point for their 360 collection, I would think, or just any Xbox game, right? I don't know. It's crazy because they just printed so many copies of Gears of War 2 and Gears of War in general that these are extremely cheap. You can
That
get
makes
just
sense.
the disc. I mean, they were handing out the disc at GameStop for like 99 cents before.
I actually recently just played through the whole Gears of War franchise, start to finish, last Christmas. Me and a buddy just blew through them all, and I really liked the whole series. So I guess I value it a little higher. Is my justification?
Yeah, $80 higher.
Yeah.
No, $40
$80?
higher than you.
Oh man, I have them all and I want to play them, but got to get a buddy to come over and play them at some point. So
I'm
unless
there.
Joe decides to play with me or you,
I'm
yeah,
there.
one of the two. So, all right, Joe's got the first point.
Dang it.
Next game, we have little game from my childhood. I had this growing up. Star Tropics on the original Nintendo, complete in box.
Dang it. This should have been my 84 guess. I feel like I can't go high now.
You're up first this time.
Is that
$62. 62.
Okay.
61, Bob.
There's a fatal flaw to this game.
There is a bit, but yeah, Joe wins. $9 off.
Oh my god.
$52.
I'm actually pretty. Yep.
Yeah,
I was gonna guess
was-
50, but then Bravo guessed a little higher. And I was like, I'm just gonna take the under on this
All
one.
right. I need to calibrate. I need to get Brad alone in a call, and he just like run me through like 30 games, just like me guessing, so I can calibrate a little better. I feel like Joe's a cheater because he does the eBay stuff as well.
He got started into it, so maybe he's got a little bit of an advantage now. But
Okay, final round. It's worth double points. Let's get it.
final round's worth 3 points.
Heck yeah.
If Bravo wins, he gets the win.
It's 3
He
points
gets
for
a
me.
he gets a half a win.
He gets a full win. I make up the rules
There
here.
you go.
All right, Kirby Air Ride for the GameCube.
Can you use it in a sentence, please?
Kirby rides a star like a racing game. It's basically Kirby's Mario Kart.
Okay, I'm assuming that I'm up first here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm gonna guess $32, Bob.
$32.
That's a good guess.
Hmm.
Now I'm triple guessing myself because I've gone high both times. So now I want to go lower. But if I go lower, there's there's infinite numbers above that it could be.
All you've got is you got 0 to 32, or
No, people
off air.
really value Kirby. Okay, so
Mhm.
I'm gonna stick to the guns. I'm gonna go
Ooh.
high. $55
55
with
you want
taxes.
55 with taxes. Oh man. All right. So the winner of this. Look at Bravo's face. Oh man. Bravo pulls out the victory.
What?
$24 off.
With a cheat.
The game is $79 complete in box.
Oh my gosh.
Hashtag
Yes.
rigged.
Yes.
Kirby.
Wait,
Curbster. I'm getting a tattoo of that boy on my skin.
I saw it way higher than that when I looked it up after. Oh no, I guess I didn't. The player's choice
Oh
one.
yeah.
So as I've said, the problem with the game is, especially when you get the player's choice options, it could skew it a little bit high or low, depending.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't
And-
matter because I lost regardless, but
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, the game's rocketed in price.
No contest.
So I looked it up and I was kind of blown away.
Joe, you come over to Papa Bravo's house anytime. I'll teach you a little bit about games. All
Yeah.
you tell me when you could actually win 2 out of 3.
right.
Oh.
No need to when I got
Fireworks,
a nice
fireworks.
right hook.
It's got Kirby on his side. He doesn't need it. All right, now getting to the main topic. Who do we think won E3? Because we're going to be doing our little overview of E3, and I want to ask, as a group, who do we think Envision Game Podcast won E3?
All right, I'm gonna come right out of the chute here, swinging because I'm still energized from my W. And Xbox Bethesda won purely because of the Game Pass and the sheer amount of games that they are allowing to be on the Game Pass. Blows me away.
Okay.
Their production value was also much higher than several of the other developers out there. Not everybody needs a showcase.
That I can 100% agree with.
Why is
There
Verizon
were-
a part of E3?
Verizon was a terrible.
They have 5G, guys. All right.
They have a 5G gaming center, okay? What's not to love? The world needs to know about this. Anyways, that's my take. What's yours?
How about you, Joe? What do you
Well, realistically, during our E3 episode, I said it was Xbox and Bethesda. Thinking over it for a while, and realistically, I can't pick over Xbox, Bethesda, or Nintendo because I think both had a really strong showing.
Mhm.
And it could just be the Zelda nerd in me, but got to see a whole lot of Zelda in Nintendo between the Hyrule Warriors and the new Breath of the Wild sequel. Got a little more information, but I realistically can't pick.
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because realistically, these are the two strongest competitors by far. I mean, I don't think there's any question between Zelda. Jeez, I was gonna say Zelda.
It's
just
between
by
Zelda
far.
and Xbox.
Yeah, it's Zelda and Xbox and Bethesda, right? No, but Microsoft and Nintendo both had a very strong outings.
Yep.
And I think that Xbox kind of came out of the gate with a little bit more, I would say, variety maybe. I feel like they have a wider range that they're hitting, where Nintendo's just hitting the Nintendo fans, right? Like if you're not into Nintendo stuff, you're probably not going to be as big into Nintendo. But for what Nintendo showed, I honestly think it's almost like a no-brainer that Nintendo won. That's just me. And this is somebody who's not a huge Nintendo fanboy. but there's just a lot of big named games here, right? But
Right.
just that they announced. That's my only thing about
Yeah,
it.
they have a lot of franchises.
Yeah, I mean, they talked about two, obviously Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, that the Game and Watch, Legend of Zelda, which looks pretty cool. Then you even had stuff like Mario and Rabbids, which was in the Ubisoft conference, but it's cooler than Nintendo's.
Yeah. So some of the choices when they released previews of games was very interesting. Like they kind of like put out their own fire in a sense because
Mhm.
they released cool games in other segments of the show. It was really strange. I don't know what they were thinking there. But to go back to this conversation, Xbox Bethesda versus Nintendo, I was thinking about this, and I think that Xbox, Microsoft, is like the giant, and Nintendo is, or I'm sorry, Goliath, and Nintendo is David.
Yep.
For the religious folks out there, because Nintendo is a sole source developer, and they have got a lot of hitting power. That the fact that we are even talking about Nintendo competing with Xbox, which basically buys the competition, and they produce all these various games from different, uh, what's the word, developers that they purchased.
Mhm.
It's crazy. It's capitalist monsters versus Nintendo doing their cool, weird stuff.
It's also kind of crazy because realistically, I mean, not saying that's a negative thing, but the Switch like power level is on par more of like the PS3 360 era, right? Like it's not, I would say, like I wouldn't say it's as strong as a PS4.
No,
I,
no.
so it to me, I'm thinking it's more on that level, right? And and obviously graphics don't mean everything, but it's kind of interesting that they are not in competition with Microsoft or Sony because they just put themselves in their own category pretty
Mm-hmm.
much. They're like, we do our own things. And I mean, the other thing that I thought was cool is most of these games had release dates this year, like 2021.
Yes, and that is
I
something.
also
Go ahead, Joe.
I also really like that when Nintendo releases a game, it is a complete game.
Yes.
You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
wait for, well, outside of Mario Party taking like 4 years to get multiplayer online, but you don't have to wait for like a patch to get to play the game and actually experience it. Cough, Dark Alliance, cough.
Yeah, and on that note, it's very it's very nice to hear a developer release a game at a press conference and then say, "Oh yeah, it comes out next Wednesday or in a month or what have you." And then you have
Yep.
Xbox who's like, "Yeah, this game comes out in 2023 approximately, about maybe. We don't know. So sit here and think about it for the next 3 years."
And then when it releases, wait another year until all the patches go through and the bugs are wiped out.
Right? I'm starting to paint this real clear picture of like capitalist corporate monsters versus Nintendo doing us a favor. Can I retract my statement? Well, I can't because Xbox Bethesda did win in my eyes. Yes, they're corporate monsters, but they won. That Game Pass is a great deal, and that's what they're really selling with all these games.
Game Pass
Yeah.
is great, but the thing that keeps putting Nintendo up higher and higher and got to the point where we're at a tie now is a lot of Xbox games slash exclusives are all sci-fi, and they are like pretty one-dimensional in that fact. If we look at like Halo and Gears of War and Outer Worlds, I don't know, I don't think that's a exclusive, but I could be wrong. And like some of the other games they're getting, they're all sci-fi games, and
That's just like the new flavor. I mean, in the 360 era, it was like zombies, right? Zombie
Mm-hmm.
games left and right. Right now, it seems like sci-fi is the hot thing. Everybody's kind of pushing.
yeah, but I mean,
Dystopian sci-fi shooter.
we sit here and look at PlayStation's like exclusives. We're not all looking at sci-fi. I mean, like Days Gone's
True.
not sci-fi. We're Horizon's kind of, but in a different way. There's like
I
differences.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the thing is with at least Microsoft, that we're still waiting for them to actually start pushing their first party games because they just acquired them. You got to give them time to start cooking the games up, right? And I think you've got another like year, 2 years before you're hearing the announcements of like Xbox exclusive, or Microsoft, so it's on Windows or Xbox, right? Um, but kind of going off of a little bit we were talking about just a couple points back, we were talking about how when they announce a game or they're talking about something, it being relatively soon. What do you guys feel this? Okay, do you think that a publisher or a developer, anybody, should even mention a game anytime, like for 6 months, release? I feel like it should be 6 months or sooner that they should announce a game,
I feel you.
because it seems like there's so many times where you hear about a game and it's like 4 years later you still haven't gotten it. It's like, what was the point of even announcing it?
Elder
Like,
Scrolls 6.
yeah, like what, other than the fact that they want to generate the hype because they had nothing else to bring to the table. It's like everybody knew that they were going to create an Elder Scrolls 6 because obviously Skyrim's on everything. But why even say it until you have something to show and it's like relatively soon coming out?
I think I would love to see the stats on this, but I think marketing teams have it wrong. Where somebody got the idea that we will build hype over time, a year out, 2 years out, and really pump this game up, get everybody excited about it, theory crafting, give them little trailers that are 20 seconds long so people can pick them apart and stuff. It's exhausting. Develop a game, give us a teaser a couple months before it releases, and release it to the wild when it's completely finished. And if you don't tease people about it, you don't give people a rough estimate, you won't have pressure, or at least more pressure, to release a game earlier when it's not completed, because these guys know. All these games that release that are in poor condition, the developers know. Like the programmers, the graphic designers, all these guys, they know. The marketing team or whoever the heck is pushing the pencils, they're the one pushing the pencils. Controlling this, they don't know. They're I don't know if they have yes men surrounding them or what, but it's horrible. Joe, what do you think? I'm interested in what you say.
So I see both ends of the spectrum here. I do see the benefit of like the long-term game, and letting people pick apart and build up some hype to it. Because I mean, if we look at Elden Ring, the last we heard from it was a small video, and now we get more information and all the hype that people have just been waiting and waiting for this. And I mean, basically all they released before was just the name. And look at the, I mean, obviously it's a Souls game to a point, so the hype is already there. But whenever it comes to like short term, like 6 months is probably a good window. It gives you enough time that like if when you announce the game, you could drop a beta the same day, get free game testers so you don't have to pay people to go through and do it. Find bugs, have enough time to, patch a little few things that get found in beta test, and then release the game. No early access, just put it out and make it finished. If you want to come back and add some DLC to it in the future, that's one thing, but I shouldn't need a patch to drive a car.
Yeah. So the only thing I'll say with that, of using the example of Elden Ring, is I don't feel like anything before E3 has really done a ton for it, other than like maybe just being like, "Hey, we're working on Elden Ring with George R. R. Martin," right? Like saying that I think is fine. Like if we'll just use some random example, like Capcom says we're working on Resident Evil 9, right? Like I don't think anybody questions it, but like you saying that ahead of time or something, that's not generating a ton of hype. It's just kind of throwing it out there for people to know. But don't put out some weird trailer for it, like really obscure, obtuse trailer that's, or like a 5 second teaser, like God of War, right? The Ragnarok one. Why even show that? Like the game clearly wasn't going to be released in 2021, and they're like 2021 God of War. It just, I don't think anybody had a thought on it. Go on, Joe.
I think it's okay to do those little teasers like God of War Ragnarok or Elder Scrolls 6, but you need to keep up with it. So if you're gonna tease it, don't go 2 years silent on it. Like every couple months, give us some more, and just like keep piece by piece feeding people. Don't just leave them high and dry.
Yeah. So in speaking to what Bravo said, actually I think both of you guys have said this. Nintendo has done a mistake once, and it was with Metroid Prime 4, which has still not been released and still has not been shown anything. They announced it like 4 years ago, and the game is nowhere. They like scrapped the entire thing.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
it happens to everybody. It's
yeah,
not,
for sure. I'm not saying that Nintendo doesn't do it with their marketing, but Nintendo releases finished games, is what I said.
Oh
You
no,
don't have.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I feel like we got kind of long on that topic, but it's okay.
I liked it. I like hearing about what you guys had to say.
Yeah. And I think we kind of covered overall. Like, maybe we can do a quick run over of how we felt overall, how E3 was.
Oh, talking impressions.
Yeah.
My impression is that, as I said previously, not everybody needs a showcase. Not everybody needs a press conference. But all in all, everything, even from the days leading up to E3 with the Netflix stuff, with the what the name just lost it, the
Summer Game Fest?
Summer Game Fest, is amazing. Xbox did great. It's an exciting time to be a gamer. I wish developers would put more energy into the show and tell, like a showcase, than what we saw with most of the developers there. But all in all, I had a good time.
Brad, how about you?
Yeah, kind of just playing off what Bravo said. I feel like overall it's like every other E3 for the most part. Just a good time to be a gamer. It's exciting when you get to see even games that aren't in your wheelhouse, right? You could be like, oh, you know what? I'm excited for people that are fans of whatever, Shin Megami Tensei or something, right? Or WarriorWare or whatever obscure game that somebody's into, or like me, the horror games, right? Uh, it's just neat to see the stuff. There's always tons of coverage out there, and it was kind of nice, even though we did actually produce our episode. It was nice to attempt do a little trial run for it.
Yeah, we learned so much from that long format covering a show. Like, we're gonna be solid for the next one.
I think overall, like E3 was okay. I don't think it's anything fancy. It's a whole lot of filler content to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the Summer Game Fest was awesome. It's just boom, 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 boom.
Yep.
Games, interviews with developers or, lead developers. Uh that's how I feel E3 should be in general. Like mix in a little bit of filler with the interviews. Um, don't putz around and add Verizon, and we watch an hour of 5G.
An
What you
hour of
got for me?
5G. So, on that note, I feel like Pandora's box has been opened, and we will never see another E3 that is not long format because
Oh, I agree.
you get both worlds. People that want the long format, they're sitting at the office in their cubicle or whatever. They're gonna watch the whole thing in the background, maybe, but they're gonna watch the whole thing. And then you get the people who don't care to watch the whole thing, and they're gonna get people like IGN or people like us to summarize it and put it in a nice little capsule for them to consume all the important stuff and be done with it. And I don't know
Yep.
how I feel about it yet. Ask me about it in 2022.
I said actually this was something that came up during our E3 coverage, like the episode that got scrapped was
The coveted episode.
should it be a very quick and precise, you know, content where they're just kind of boom 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 going down the row?
Mm-hmm.
Should they have no developer commentary and do that like later on? Do they keep it the same way it is and kind of draw it out as long as possible? I think the best way you do it is you do short, and then right afterwards you do all of the developer commentary and your later stuff. So the people that want the quick coverage of everything, they can kind of see it all one spot. But at the same time, realistically, you could just go to a website like E3 Recap, like you said, IGN, listen to your podcast, listen to us talk about it next time when we actually do it.
Mhm.
So I do see why that they wouldn't do the shorter thing. I just, for my own selfish reasons, would like it.
Yeah. All right. Moving on, the E3 coverage, like we said, we scrapped it. So we're just going to cover 3 games that we each individually picked that we really like from E3 and just talk about them a little bit in depth here. So, Brad, why don't you give us your first game?
All right, my first game is a game I feel like flew under the radar, especially because when we talked about it during our E3 episode, neither Joe nor Bravo had an idea of what this was.
I didn't know it existed.
Yeah, it just went right under the radar. But this is Signalis. So this was covered in the Summer's Game Fest, and this is essentially Silent Hill in space with beautiful PS1 style. I would guess it's PS1 style pixel art. Maybe it's a little bit higher PS2, but I don't know. It's like in between there. But it's got your kind of typical horror genre gameplay where you got the puzzles, you got your kind of, it looks like it's going to be the clunkier style combat, which, take it or leave it, I guess. Got the isometric viewpoint, just similar to Silent Hill, similar to old school Resident Evil, everything that we've come to love. I think that is the way to really make horror games, personally. That is why it works so well, because when you have that kind of that little bit of jankiness, and you turn that corner and the camera angle changes, and then there's a monster like right next to you, that adds that little bit of terror for you. One neat thing that I noticed from the trailers is that there also seems to be a first person mode. Don't know what is going to be, activating this. I don't know if it's going to be all the time or just in certain little areas, but it seems like you kind of go into first person mode and observe your surroundings and environments, interact with different like panels or items in general, and even got the similar way to kill enemies like Silent Hill of kicking them while they're down. They squirm a little. They squirm a little bit, and you give them a little boot, and then they're dead. I don't know why that kills them, but the gunshots didn't do it.
Yeah.
And the final little note I have is that it also quite possibly could have those gruesome death scenes that we've seen in a few games. So, a game that comes to mind that's not in the same style, but is a third-person horror game is Dead Space, that had some of these. Dead Space had some where like the monsters pick you up and rip you in half, rip a limb off,
Juice.
cut your head off, whatever. Yeah, and in not the E3 Summer Game Fest trailer, but if you look it up, they have their own trailer that they released, and it shows the protagonist actually getting her arm ripped off in it. And obviously it's gruesome, but it looks good for a pixelated style game.
Yeah.
So,
Some of the things that I noticed were the graphics. Some of the visuals were kind of hard on my eyes. I've got eyes sensitive to light, so some of the darker transition scenes and whatnot are a little hard on my eyes. But I do like the '90s computer vibe I get. Like all the interfaces in the game are like old analog interfaces, which is kind of cool because it looks like they're in a spaceship or something. Lots of point of view changes. Like you said, I'm interested to see how they do that. Like, can you choose when you change point of views, or is it only when you enter certain areas that suddenly it's a hallway and you're in first person or something? I don't know. That's pretty cool. Everything else you've already said. You did good coverage.
nice.
I am for one am excited to get another Silent Hillish style game. Overall, graphics aren't the best, but I'll take what I can get at this point since it doesn't seem like we're gonna get a actual Silent Hill anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, some things I noticed from the trailer they showed, it sounded like it was like German. I could be wrong on the language, but there was like some talking in a foreign language. Uh, and the ship kind of like crash landed into a snowy area. So I guess like the snow and blizzards are how they're going to try to match like the fog from the old Silent Hills.
Mm,
That's
But
that's actually a good point.
yeah. One
but
thing,
outside of that, it looks really good.
one thing I noted about the developer, I checked out their website, and they also published a game called Ascend, which is a short story about loss that looks very similar, like graphically, to Signalis. So perhaps if you like the graphics of Signalis, maybe you want to see a hint of kind of their style, you go check out that game. And then additionally, I found Coffin Counseling, which is an 8-bit game with great music. Uh, Basically, Dracula gets depressed and eats his therapist, and you're the new hire therapist that has to calm everybody in the castle. So like all of his minions, Dracula. It just seems like a really goofy game.
I am putting that on the list right now. That sounds
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
Wow.
As soon as the music started playing on the trailer, I was like, I'm sold. I'm gonna have to buy this game. I'm gonna have to play it.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm kind of glad that we're doing it this way because I feel like doing the deeper dive into some of these games puts a light into all of us into trying out something maybe we wouldn't normally. And it's just cool to see what other people's thoughts are because obviously I'm very biased towards horror games where Joe likes horror games and Bravo hasn't played almost any.
Yeah.
Got that wide range there. But the we'll move on to the next game unless you guys have anything else to add on Signalis.
Nope, hit me.
All right, moving on, we have Lamentum. So Lamentum was another game that was in the the Summer Games Fest, and originally it was a Kickstarter game. So this has been announced, and people have actually seen gameplay of it. But first time, I feel like majority of us have seen it. We've got SNES pixel art. I would say it kind of gives me vibes of the original Clock Tower, and Clock Tower was actually on the SNES, but then in the United States we mainly saw it on PlayStation 1.
What is Clock Tower?
Clock Tower is like a point and click horror game,
Okay.
and it has a dude that's probably like 4'11" chasing you with gigantic scissors, extremely slow. It's kind of funny. And the whole horror aspect of it is just you don't have any way to really defend yourself. I don't know if you're like a little girl or something, but you don't have any way to defend yourself. You have to hide, figure out puzzles, and he kind of chases you throughout the levels slowly. But you're also have your clunky point and click controls with the SNES controller. But just a few things that I've noticed from the trailers that I've seen. It looks like there possibly could be a light and dark world in this game, as you actually see the protagonist drink blood from a chalice in a church, and then the church goes from completely empty, normal style into it's like filled with these gruesome creatures, some weird things hanging on the cross, bleeding out. You've got all these ghosts in the pews. It's interesting. So I don't know if that's gonna be how it plays. We also see one moment where the protagonist walks up to a mirror. It kind of reminds me of The Evil Within, where walks up to the mirror and then is transported. Like he gets like pulled into the mirror. So I'm just taking a wild guess that there's going to be a scene change there.
Mm-hmm.
And has its limited 8 directional movement, which is once again reminds me of the SNES style stuff. And the storyline is about a man that is basically willing to do anything to cure his dying wife. That is the very little that we kind of get. Picking from that also though, when I was watching the trailer, I saw there is a young girl, and we see 2 scenes with her. We see a cutscene where it has a more detailed version of her, and it zooms in her face, and she's like crying blood. And maybe this is a daughter, maybe not. I'm not sure. But then later on, we also see a very similar, could be coincidence, but similar shape and uh, clothing of the girl laying on a altar, and we pick her up and start like turning around to walk away. So don't know if we're saving her or what, but I think the game looks pretty neat.
Yeah, the art style was. It reminded me of Darkest Dungeon with the cutscenes, but
Mm-hmm.
then the movement reminded me of like Stardew Valley mixed with like a Resident Evil kind of a feel. You know, horror Stardew Valley. Pretty interesting little mix. I also liked the mini puzzles that were in the game. Not many, but many, like a whole bunch of puzzles that were in the game. It seems pretty interesting. And
Yeah.
yeah, the it's not my cup of tea, as you said, Brad, but I have to watch you play it, hopefully.
All in
Oh,
all, this
I will.
game is pixel art Resident Evil in the 1900s to me.
Mm-hmm.
The little monsters, the darkness, it's just gives me the vibe of the original Resident Evil in the mansion. It seemed like a lot of what it was showing us for the game was in the church mansion, whatever we want to call it. And the 1900s weapons, like, kind of intrigue me. It's definitely going to make it more of a survival horror aspect with the fact that, like, loading a flintlock handgun is one shot at a time. It's not going to be where you could just rattle off a handful of bullets. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes.
Are you gonna play it, Joe?
Depending on price.
Yeah. What? How much
I
do you think the game's worth, gentlemen?
You want me to go? All
Yeah,
right,
go,
all
Brad.
right. Lamentum, I'm gonna guess is gonna be released at $20.
I think it's probably worth somewhere between 10 to 15.
$19, Bob. Okay. I didn't mean to cut you off, Brad. What were you gonna say?
No, I feel like it's just gonna be a 1999 game. Like it's kind of that standard indie title.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if it's below that, I would be blown away. I think it might even be $30, $29.99, just because we're seeing the push of price increases for overall new games. Obviously, now games are $69.99, so I could see indie games going from the 1999 mark to 29.99.
I hope not. That hurts my pocketbook.
Oh yeah, that is definitely not fun, but it does look like a fun game.
Yeah. I also did a deep dive or a deeper dive into this developer as well. They are called Neon Doctrine. They recently rebranded from quote another indie end quote with the public statement to embrace the darker, unsettling but unexplored sides of gaming. So maybe if that resonates with you, you can go check out the rest of their games. Most of them are 2D or 2.5D gaming fixed on horror or dark style games, obviously. I think Lamentum, looking at their library, is probably going to be one of their larger, more successful games. And they have an action RPG boss battler game called Sinner's Sacrifice, that seems like a simpler Dark Souls that is focused on boss battles. So it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of like in between battles. It's just boss fights. And interestingly enough, you have to sacrifice something to get to the next boss. So if it's like I'm assuming a strength based boss, you'd have to sacrifice strength or a strength stat to get to that boss to fight it. So as you progress through the game, instead of getting stronger, you're actually getting weaker, which is kind of a cool little concept.
Hmm. That one I may actually have to take a look into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say though, between the two, because I feel like these are the two big horror games that were announced alongside. We also had the Fatal Frame game that Nintendo had at their direct, which, very quick side note about that, is getting released on everything. I believe it's getting released on PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. So along with Nintendo, obviously. So it'll be the first time anybody can get to play with that.
Oh,
But
nice.
between these two games, I think it's going to be a pretty good fight because they both have similar, I feel like, styles. Obviously, pulling from the most popular franchises being Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and it just seems like Lamentum is trying to do maybe a little bit more gameplay wise, where the Signalis is trying to be more true to form.
Yeah, so before we move on from horror games, I want to get your gentleman's opinion. Is Resident Evil kind of the go-to standard for horror games like Diablo or not Diablo, Dark Souls is the standard for those type of games?
Uh, yes and no. Yes, in the way that Resident Evil definitely set the tone early in gaming. But Resident Evil, I mean, if you play through Resident Evil 1 all the way up to Village now, you're going through like a few different genres of horror games, like subgenres. And so yes and no in the Resident Evil, but I think Silent Hill also deserves the recognition it should have as well.
Yeah. Overall, I think if you take the, I think the older style games do the horror genre better. Honestly, I feel like once you get to even you get to like Silent Hill 4 and even Resident Evil 4, right? They're not really horror games. I mean, Silent Hill 4, I don't know 100% because I didn't play through it, but there weren't a ton of. Actually, now that I think about it, there was a moment I about crap myself playing Silent Hill 4. Um, so maybe not that one, but like when you get to the PS3 era, right, of Silent Hill games, they just didn't hold up as well. In the horror aspect, they were like action games with horror elements in it, but never. I don't see how it'd scare anybody, right? And then you get to Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, like that. I mean, it's almost like, are they even horror games? It's just the fact that they have Resident Evil in the title that you call them a horror game. Like 4, yes, I could see calling that one. 5, you're getting
It's
close to it.
stretch.
Yeah, you're stretching it. 6, I don't even. I mean, you call that a Michael Bay movie, is what you call it, right? So then you get to 7, and you're getting back to the actual horror stuff, but it's first person. And 8, you get the RE2 remakes where they I feel like they nailed horror for third person action. So, there's a lot of ways to do it. I personally like the old school way or third person action, like RE2 remake.
Okay.
Then first person's like, I would say third on the list. Because usually first person you get the boring like Outlast. I have no weapons. I'm gonna hide. I'm gonna see some dongs flying around here. Yeah, that's. I don't know if you've ever played Outlast, but there's two brothers that are chasing you, and they got their dongs just flailing, coming after
All
you.
right.
Yep.
We're gonna end it on that one.
Yep, that's the end of the podcast now. And we're done. Never making an episode again. All right, my third and final game should come as no surprise if you know me at all. It's going to be Diablo II Resurrected that was announced at Xbox Microsoft conference. Realistically, the entire trailer was just saying, boom, we're releasing this in September 23rd, 2021. It's a faithful port. It looks phenomenal. I've watched a ton about the game already, and I'm trying to kind of do a little bit of silencing myself of like, I don't want to see anything else. I want everything from beyond Act 2, because we've seen Act 1 and Act 2 in the beta. They handed it out to a bunch of people to play. I was able to watch people like speedrun getting from, finishing up to Act 2. And, it was interesting, but I want to see what Act 3, 4, and 5 are going to be, right? So how about you, Bravo? Give me a little bit of what you're feeling from somebody who's an outsider who has never actually played Diablo 2.
Yeah, so for ignorant me, classic Bravo, I was surprised by the 8-man party size. I did not know that that was an original thing. But
Yeah, it's especially crazy because I feel like Diablo 3 brought so many people into the franchise
yeah,
because it was such a I'm trying to think. As weird as it sounds, their marketing push for a Diablo game was they wanted your grandma to be able to play it. That was like one of the game developers, what he said, which is obviously very strange.
that's an
So they
interesting
wanted,
spin.
yeah, they wanted the simplicity, and I think they wanted just 4 people in and out.
Yeah. So my
I don't
biggest
know.
my okay, so let me back up here. I
Mhm.
finally get to play this game, okay? Because I got into Diablo 3 just like you said. I guess I was a grandma and I was like, oh, let's play this game. But I didn't want to go back and play Diablo 2 until they remastered it because I knew that they were going to do it at some point.
Mhm.
I I don't want spoilers either. Maybe even more than you since I don't know almost jack about the game. But tell me this, compared to D3, how is the in-game loop? Is there an in-game loop?
So, the the big draw to Diablo, the Diablo games as a whole, is just to obviously level your character up and try to optimize the items and make them as strong as possible.
Right.
There's a bunch of opportunities to based on what your gameplay style is, right? So if you want, there's hardcore and standard mode, right? Hardcore is if you die, that's it, everything's gone. Very like roguelike esque. Then standard, obviously, if you die, you just get like a little penalty. They take some gold away or something. Maybe a little bit of experience too later
Oh, interesting.
on. You'll never lose a level though, so you might just lose some experience.
Okay.
Um, Max level is 99, near impossible to actually reach 99, and they have seasons in the game. They call it, it's called ladder mode, basically, where you just try to race up the ladder, get as far as you can. There's a leaderboard. It'll show you where you sit on the ladder based off of. I think there's 1,000 players that are on the
So
leaderboard.
is that just like character level that you're racing to get?
Yeah, so
Okay.
they have it split up between all classes and then based on the class that you chose. So you could see how you do versus everybody in the sorceress, right? Or the paladin or barbarian.
And in order to climb the ladder, you have to just
You
play
just
through the arcs of the game.
Yep, you're just playing through like the story, but once you complete, there's 5 acts in the game. Once you complete the 5 acts, you then can go back. You can create a game and go back, make a new game, and do anything over again. All the bosses will respawn, all the enemies change up.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, things will randomize a bit depending if you're playing multiplayer or single player.
Okay.
Um, and realistically, what you do is you like get into a party and you'll go and do certain runs to try to level up faster. I won't, like boss runs essentially.
That sounds pretty
Because
standard for Diablo.
yeah, so you'll go do, but the difference is Diablo 3, they had like their bounty system was the main thing.
Ugh.
Where in this it's like, do I want to go do these certain runs? There are different ones that help out. You could do magic find runs where you go and just try to find specific gear, just better overall.
Mm-hmm.
You can obviously create new characters. You could do PvP. You could start a character in hardcore mode if you have standard. I mean, there's a ton of different viable builds too. It's just a lot to it,
Yeah.
and it's pretty great.
So I got to be honest, I'm not too interested in the leaderboard or the like in-game loop then because my least favorite part of D3 was the bounty system. So
Yeah,
in order to get your Nephilim Rift keys, you have to go through and do bounties to get blah blah blah. I really dislike that. So the idea of going through and just replaying acts is not my cup of tea. But
I
I
think
will enjoy the story as I go through it at least the one time.
I think what it is your it's just exciting when you play. So I will tell you this just from my standpoint, play through it at minimum through Nightmare. Because you'll do the entire story in normal. When you're finished in normal, roughly you'll be finished by about level 35, and you'll only have about 5 levels where you've had your max, like the end skills unlocked, right? I would say give it to Nightmare, get through that at minimum, and then you can put it down if you want. And just so you can experience a little bit more, because the enemy's a little bit harder, you can coast through a lot of the acts in Nightmare because you have a little bit better gear, your strength's a little bit better, but you get to use some of the more exciting skills, I would say. Some of the classes get good skills obviously early on, but obviously they save a lot of the really good ones towards the end.
Nightmare first, and then normal.
You can't skip difficulty.
Watch me.
If you get rushed.
Joe, you've been quiet. Tell me what you think of Diablo 2.
You know what we're getting with Diablo 2. If anybody's played the old one, slap some new pretty art on it, call it a day. The magic effects look really good. I just can't wait to play this one with the boys. Up to 8 people. I mean,
Whoa!
how aren't we gonna find 5 other people?
We need
right?
5 more friends.
We'll somehow scrounge some more people up in the community, I'm sure. We definitely will. So I actually have this is just me, right? I have some questions for you guys who don't have the experience with the game, because there's been a little controversy around the remake of this.
Oh, juicy.
Because there's a fine line to a classic game of what do you do when you remaster it? Do you make little quality of life changes to it? So just as a very small example, in Diablo 2, do you think going and picking up the gold one by one individually should stay in the game, or do you think running over it and being picked up is the way to go?
Is it a remake or a remaster?
I don't know, because they want to make it as faithful as possible, as I said.
Correction, it's a resurrection.
Yes.
So that's a remake. So I keep everything the same.
Okay.
If you want to be even more specific, do it like Halo Master Chief Collection did it with the original Halo Combat Evolved. Hit a button, go back to the classic everything.
You have that.
Then that's all you need.
So here's what they've done, though. So they've added very, very few things, but you can, for the most part, I believe, toggle them off in the menu, right? So for an example, like I said, the gold. You can turn that off if you want to individually click the gold, right? Or if you want to just run over it, run over it. They've added a shared stash for single player, and so you can trade with yourself, kind of thing, right? Because here's the thing, though. I know what you're saying, but all people were doing, because I was doing the same thing, is you would make another character and you just throw your crap on the other character. And then you'd go into the game and you make a game, you drop your crap and you go back into the game and pick it up with the other character. So you're saving a step. Like that was their thing, and they were talking to the community.
So two things. First off, if you toggle these things on or off, does it eliminate your ability to be on the leaderboard? Second thing, the quality of life updates, I think that the transfer of items is perfectly fine as a fix to a problem. If you're just eliminating steps in a logistical problem like that, I think that's just quality of life. But me personally, I think the picking up gold thing is a quality of life. Give me a little minion that runs around and picks up my gold, because I don't want to do that. But I don't have that hardcore, classic
Play a different game.
Yeah.
Well, no, and that's Joe's mentality is exactly what I think majority of people think. And it just comes to, okay, so you make this change, right? Like the gold, which I honestly think that's worth it, because realistically gold is worth almost nothing in Diablo 2. Like they completely messed up the economy in the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the economy for trading was a unique item. Like it was just, you were trading Stone of Jordans, which are these unique rings. And it was like, okay, I'll give you 3 SOJs for this Wind Force or something, which is it's not even close to right, because Wind Force is worth way more than that. But anyways, just some random, right?
Yeah, so if you toggle stuff on or off to eliminate or to get around the classic mode, does it eliminate your ability to be on the leaderboard?
No. So the leaderboard, the thing is, I don't think anything that they're changing is going to actually affect how fast you can level up though. Like the the shared stash, like while yes, it is definitely a benefit, but in the long run, and also I don't know this, like I don't know if the shared stash is available online. That might be a single player only feature,
Hmm.
which if that's the case, that's good. But even still, like I think in BattleNet, if it's shared stash, I think it's still a positive thing, and all you're doing is you're eliminating your mule accounts, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's too bad, but like what a lot of people are saying is what is the line? Okay, well once you make that change, then why have the stamina bar? There's a stamina bar in the game that David Brevik, the creator of Diablo 2, has said himself. Why the hell did I even include this? He's like, what? He's like, I should have gotten rid of it. That's the number one thing he would have gotten rid of. Do they go and remove that? But then that all of a sudden alters speed running because a huge strategy of speed running is buying stamina pots and being able to prioritize and manage your stamina early game because that's the only time stamina matters. I'm getting onto a
No,
rant here.
then you definitely cannot take stamina out of the game. I'm sorry, original creator of the game, but you cannot remove that because it is a
No.
part of the legacy that is D2.
Yeah.
I like the fact that you can turn things off and on. If there's a toggle button and they want to add new little features like single gold pile or the item box to that doesn't change the game in any way other than make things a little bit smoother for people, and you could turn it on and off, perfectly fine.
Oh, one more thing that I do remember off the top of my head for little tweaks they've added. So gambling in the game, before in order to refresh the store, you had to exit out of the merchant and then click on him again and go back into the store, and it would refresh his store for you. Now they just added the button that you click to refresh it.
Doesn't make a difference.
Yeah,
Quality
it
of
really
life.
doesn't. It's like I said, yeah, quality of life thing. Sure, maybe in like speed running sense, which they don't really gamble from what I know of. Like maybe there's something random where it's like you're just clicking the refresh button looking for a certain item that would make it a little bit faster
Yeah.
in this remaster. But let me before we get off this game, because I knew that this was going to be long because I just had some questions being passionate about this. So um, here is an idea that I had because they've talked about the game is it has a lot of viable builds, but some are obviously more powerful than others,
Mm-hmm.
right? So anybody that's played Diablo 2 will tell you a hammered in is the strongest thing and it's stupid overpowered, right? Do they go in and make a new patch for the game? And hear me out. Make a new patch that you can choose, kind of like right now, if you play this remaster in current Diablo 2, you can choose to play classic Diablo 2 or Lord of Destruction, right? So Lord of Destruction adds a lot of the quality of life things that people are used to in Diablo 2 as of today, which would be um, rune words, like runes in general. They added way more items, such as exceptional and elite items, because before it was just normal base items. And they added charms. They've added jewels. There's a ton of content that was added from actual Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction, which is the expansion. So when you create a character, on the bottom of the screen when you name it, there's options. There are you can choose to play with Lord of Destruction. You can choose to play hardcore, and you can toggle them on and off. So if you want to play classic Diablo 2 without any of that stuff, you can't weapon swap in that. You just turn it off. I was thinking what you do is just add a third option to that where you create your character. And if they wanted to down the road add like an expansion or something, or maybe some new items to the game, they want to patch any of the skills, you have the option to do that. But if you want the classic experience, they're not touching it at all. It is still Diablo 2 the way that it was meant to be, that faithful port that they have. But if you wanted to have a updated, like maybe revised version with more tweaks to the skills in general. This is mainly skills I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
So, are they not adding this Lord of Destruction mode to the remake? Is that what you're
They
saying?
are. Nope. They have the. You could play classic or Lord of Destruction in this right now, but people are saying, do you go and like? People aren't really saying this. It's more of my thought because some are saying, like I said, what is too far? Do they go and balance some of the classes that
No.
don't get played?
No.
No, they don't. I think that too. But if you wanted to balance it and you wanted to increase maybe a power level of something, just add another option to that button.
No.
I like the idea. I think that it only adds depth to the game by a simple setting change. So you can have people who do the classic run, per season. You do the classic ladder run, and then you have the guys that play the balanced version of the game that also have their leaderboard. So you have twice as many people playing the game, the people that like the classic, the people that like the more balanced. It also gives people like me who like to switch up their build a lot because I get bored with, the or the bell hammer build or whatever in D3. So I just start playing different stuff, but it's boring because if you don't play these hyper, these overpowered
The optimized
builds,
classes obviously are what, and that's part of the thing. And I do know, like, I don't think they should touch anything. I'm a purist by heart for sure, but I do think that, like, I don't see what the negative would be of them adding the option because it's just like anything else. You have a toggle button. If you don't want it, don't click it.
Okay,
And I think
then make Diablo 4. Don't make Diablo 2 Resurrected.
they are making Diablo 4.
Well, then they could balance it in Diablo 4. Don't touch Diablo 2.
But Diablo 4 is not going to. The thing is this: I don't think that they're ever going to recapture Diablo 2, and this is their opportunity to have. They've somehow, because originally all of the original creators of Diablo 2 have done podcasts and interviews saying they don't think it's possible based on how they built the game. They built the game in a way where it was built for a 4x3 monitor, and the AI is coded in a way where if they're off the screen, they do not aggro. And as soon as you add a widescreen to it, you could see the monster, and you're going to be able to click on them and shoot a spell at them without them being aggro. And they also have like grid pathing and stuff that just is not capable of an HD remaster. Somehow these guys figured a way to just slap a layer over top of it essentially and do some magic.
Well,
but
we'll see.
I guess what it is from a fan of the, like, Diablo 2 is my favorite game of all time. So from somebody who is such a huge fan, I would love to see them maybe, because these guys have clearly a love for it, and I could see them maybe doing an actual recreation of the expansion that was lost, because they have data on things that nobody knows about, and they had a third expansion they scrapped, so maybe they could somehow work that in, faithfully in that way, and make that just like a toggled option. I don't know. I'm getting long on this.
Yeah.
I could have done this podcast on my own. But just this topic.
Yeah. It's fun watching you be passionate about this. I wish I could add more input to it.
Anyways, let's move on.
Moving on. Sweet, my turn.
Let's do it.
All right. So
Bravo.
my first is just an expansion to a game. Kind of boring, I know, but hold your breath, folks. We're talking about Grounded, the Shroom and Doom update. Okay. If you've never played Grounded, you need to shut this podcast. Wait, you need to pause this podcast. Go watch the trailer for Grounded because it's amazing. It's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in a game, and I played it when it came out in alpha, and it was amazing. It was basically a finished game. It just didn't have enough content to like keep you hooked. So they've added over time more and more things to do, more things to build, more things to tame and ride. They've got flying, and the newest DLC, the Shroom and Doom update, they've added to the map. They've added more stuff to do, and they've added the first world boss, which, if you don't like spiders, earmuffs, it's a spider. Okay, it's called the Brood Mother. Interestingly enough, it was actually it was actually a part of the game when it first released, but they didn't like the way that it was. It just wasn't as polished as they would like. So they removed her and fixed her up, and they're putting her back in the game here. It looks phenomenal, and I need to go back and play it even more now that they have more content out. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Go ahead.
Yes, I played this with you when it came out.
What?
Loved it. It was buggy. Don't get me wrong. I got
the
real
pun.
mad building. I got real aggravated building and trying to put my leaf floors down, and it wouldn't place. And then like I'd log out and log back in, and everything was there, and there was like 8 layers of floors that just never showed up.
That sounds awesome.
I would like to say
But-
Joe was the only one that really struggled with that. And I did not. I did not make
Sounds like
intricate buildings as he did.
Sounds like user error to me.
Got him.
But I do want to go back and give it another try. They're adding sitting, that you could sit on a chair. We're really excited to announce that. They're adding pets, so you could have like little animal or bug larva as a pet. Mushrooms, which it looks like mushrooms are going to turn into brick essentially when you break them down.
like castle structures. It's going to be
Yeah.
awesome.
And then the big spider Chongus Broodmother is back, and we did fight her a little bit when we first played, if I remember correctly, on accident.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was definitely something I remember being buggy.
Yeah,
But
even the medium-sized spiders would get caught on the grass, and you could go like tap them and kill them. But just so the listeners know, if you haven't played Grounded, there is a arachnophobia mode that you can slider through and make the spider, instead of being a big giant monster, it'll be like this blob that is much less scary, but still will attack you in all the same animations.
Still is frightening in my book, but
Yeah. Oh, and if you're afraid of slimes, I'm sorry, because we got nothing for you.
because we haven't went over it, this is a survival game. So imagine like Ark or Conan and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids animated style.
Very cutesy game, very bright, very amazing. I never knew I wanted to play Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in a video game form, but I should have seen it coming because of Sarge's Soldiers, the plastic toy soldier game.
Army Men, Sarge's Heroes?
Sarge's Heroes, yeah.
Yes, that's a good game. So I am not as big of a survival fan as these guys are. I feel like kind of similarly to the horror thing, where it's like, I was saying like I'm the big horror guy and Bravo knows nothing. It's not flipped. I know nothing about survival games really, but I will say the graphic style of this I actually really like. It just pops. It looks really nice. And I love the fact that you're trying to survive in the backyard and just get back to normal. It's as simple as that. So that intrigues me. And honestly, after watching a bunch of this gameplay, doing a little bit of research, I wanted to play it. So I went and bought myself the Game Pass for, I think it's like 3 months. And it doesn't work. I can't get it to work.
The Game Pass.
The Game Pass does not work for me right now.
Yeah.
We've been trying to
super weird bug, but the Xbox app is horrible in my opinion. But I do want to make a small little statement without any spoilers. There's a story to this game, and the little bit of a story that I have played was pretty darn cool. All right, just think the Honey I Shrunk the Kid scientist is involved somehow with the story, and it makes it really cool. That's all I'm gonna say. All right, moving on. Moving on. The next game is Icarus, which is a survival game. I didn't mean to do this. This is just what caught my attention, okay? It's like the Pandora from Avatar meets video gaming. But Avatar has its own game now, so maybe that's a bad example. But essentially, it's a survival game that's like a second Earth. and the only addition to like a normal survival game is you have to balance your oxygen while building your structures, getting food, getting water, doing all this stuff. Looks pretty cool. It's got a handful of dinos in it. The trailer got me excited for like an arc killer, but unfortunately, we only know about 6 or 8 dinos that are in the game, so I can't really say that it's gonna be an arc killer. It has storm mechanics in it. Like I said, an oxygen mechanic. The planet was terraformed using Earth DNA for animals. So they took animals that were on the planet, like spliced them together. So you get these really cool hybrid looking animals. Some of them just look a little bit more like standard animals, but it's a pretty good range of artistic style creatures and biomes. And my last note on it is there's a really cool 7 minute long cinematic trailer that actually like gets the heart juices pumping. Like you maybe shed a little tear or something. Did you guys watch that trailer?
I did not see that trailer.
Oh yeah,
No, I didn't either.
I'll have to link it to you guys. But for those of you listening, it's pretty darn cool. It's called Icarus. Comes out in 2021. Your thoughts, gentlemen?
Joseph.
It's another sci-fi survival crafting game. Natural disasters look really cool. I only saw like earth animals, so like a bear and a deer. I didn't see any dinosaurs or anything like that in the trailer at E3. I could have overlooked it. It looked like they were driving vehicles, which is a cool concept. Like Ark, you would have, your tamed dinosaurs to ride or fly. Seems like you could build cars or quads, whatever. The rockets shooting up, I didn't know if that was an end game thing
Oh yeah. So
or
let me enlighten you on that. The end game loop is that the terraforming on this planet went awry for some reason. I'll leave it up to you to learn. But your in game loop is to find this, let's call it unobtainium, that you mine and take back in the rocket to the ship to sell, and then you go back down and you do it again. So you're kind of like a mercenary for hire, stuck on this planet, or perhaps not stuck on the planet. I don't know which way that is, but yeah, it's got a bit of an in-game loop. That's how you get to the market and whatnot, because that unobtainium is how you're probably going to get your in-game stuff, your higher tier items.
gotcha. Bradley?
All right, so realistically, I don't have a ton to add from what these guys said. I think they covered it pretty well. Uh, One cool thing that I noted just from a little bit of research is that Dean Hall is also behind this, who also kind of created DayZ, which I feel like was maybe one of the big pushes of survival games back in the day. I just remember that game being so in depth. It was almost insane going like you had to buy Arma 2, then download this mod, and there's so many mechanics to it at the time that was nutty. So seeing his name attached to it gives me pretty good hope for it. That, for the survival fans, that it's going to be a solid survival game. But I'm not going to bring much else to it. I just want to ask you guys, what would you like to see added to a survival game that takes it to the next level? What is it that needs to, I guess, be pushed into that,
In my
next
opinion,
level for a survival game?
a survival game needs to be just two things: a really cool setting that's going to get people hooked to continue to play and build and interact. And the second thing is balance. Properly being able to create your structures, craft. It's not too cumbersome for an individual to learn or maintain their living situation or their structures or whatever. And if you want to, you can easily make like a toggle to where it's hardcore mode or casual mode. That's perfectly fine. But for me, it's balance and setting.
For me, when it comes to taking a survival game to the next level, if we're talking a game like Icarus or Ark or Conan, the thing that's most important to making the game the next level would be making the world more full. not necessarily bigger, but more like dense and feel real. Obviously, it's going to be more taxing on computers or consoles at that point, but I don't think it's anything to add because I think games like Icarus, Ark, Conan, all of the big names in that genre of survival, they are their own thing. They're not a green hell, which takes it to the next level where you have to manage food and
Mm.
water and all of your different sicknesses or ailments or getting stung by bees or all of that stuff. I think there's like a fine line between the two, and that's how
That
you differentiate.
that actually goes right into the next question I had for you guys. What is the fine line for survival games? It seems like there is this like walk that they take where do you make it too simple or too complex? What is that line? Because I've seen games where kind of like you said, where they have it where there's tons of elements. You have, you have to specifically wrap a finger or something like that because you broke that one pinky. I'm exaggerating. I haven't seen that specifically, but it's like, do you like managing, your hydration? Do you want the food meter? Do you want to have to sleep in the game? Um, or is it mainly just specifically the building that's needed? Like, I think that's something that I've always struggled with. I don't know what it is that I enjoy for a survival game because the concept to me is interesting, but a lot of times where it loses me is it's maybe a little too complex for me to start, and I don't want to put the time into learning this game when I feel like my time as an adult with, a job and other outside, you know, distractions, when I want to play a game, I want to jump into it, right? I don't want to sit and kind of learn another style of gameplay.
For sure.
And it seems like a lot of the survival games are similar, but maybe have their own twist on things. And it also could be just me not playing enough of them to get that grasp. So yeah, let's hear it from you guys. What you think?
It's a it's a mindset, I think. I'm perfectly fine with playing extremely hardcore survival games if I know what I'm getting into. Because I can pull up my britches, lean forward, get in the gamer stance, gamer mode, and really go to town on a game for a little while. But sometimes you're not feeling that and you go play a casual survival game, or maybe you go play Rocket League because it's 5 minute rounds or whatever, like it's all about the mindset. I think there's no perfect balance to that. What do you think, Joe?
So I'm going to use two games that I feel are probably the most popular example of both. So we're going to talk about Ark and Green Hell. Ark being the more arcadey version, which is, if Brad wants to hop down and play for an hour in his own little world, he can. And then Green Hell, which is like the in depth, it might not be the most in depth, but you have to micromanage and all of that. So I think the difference between the games is what the objective of the game comes down to. So for Ark, the objective is to build up, tame dinosaurs, fight bosses, beat the game that way. The objective of Green Hell is to survive and get out.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to surviving and get out, the focus of the game is on surviving, whereas the focus of Ark is taming dinosaurs, fighting bosses. I think that's where the line comes in of where to add those features in the micromanagement.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Um, Honestly, both of you guys had good points because
Yeah.
for me, I I guess when I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about it one like very narrow-minded of there's a there is a fine line maybe where the best world would be in between both of them and that would appeal to most audiences, but in reality, there's probably a wide enough like reach. There's probably a lot of people that do want this super hyper realistic, and maybe that's where Arma came into play, that DayZ mod, because they wanted that super realistic, over the top game, and then you get stuff that people like what Joe is saying, Arc, where it's maybe more simplistic, and I mean, is Minecraft fall in that category where it's just kind of, hey, you're just building things up, you're getting the resources, you're building things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not extreme, but you have to survive at night. There's zombies fighting things off. that would probably be on the simpler side of things.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's all I've got for that. Didn't add too much to Icarus, but it does look good.
Yeah, so the next game, or the last game on my list, is Lominus Gate. It comes out August 3rd, 2021. It is a first person shooter, turn based strategy game. Let that sink in. First person shooter, turn based strategy game. How the heck does that concept even work, right?
It doesn't.
It does, Joseph. It works out of a time loop. So you're playing in the fourth dimension where you play around, you're trying to complete some objective. They have seek and destroy, domination, retrieve, which is like capture the flag. So you try to do this objective, and then the next guy's turn, he tries to stop you in a time loop. I believe it's 25 seconds long. So,
Yes.
he tries to stop you. He shoots your first instance, so you shoot his second instance, and it just keeps getting more and more complex. There's characters that you can pick and choose from, I believe, each round to help you complete the objective. Maybe a guy that is a little faster, has a different kind of weapon, what have you. I will say that the story for this game is kind of weak to me. It surrounds infertility. For some reason, the human race has lost the ability to have kids, and they use quantum computing or quantum what have you to go back in time and try to fix it. And for whatever reason, these different game modes are how you do it. I think it's kind of weak, but I like the concept of the game. It's similar to another game called Quantum League, which is a 1v1 first person shooter where you just play each individual round trying to stand on an objective at the end of the round. So it starts to quickly layer where maybe you make it to the objective, but then the next round the guy kills your old version of you, and it just gets more and more complex. Seems pretty interesting.
I'm very interested to see how this time loop thing works. It, to me, reminds me of 4D chess, in a way, like how you have these different timelines and all of that fun stuff. Is this game online only? Do
I
we know?
I
I
don't know.
I can imagine it is. I almost can't imagine it not being
Yeah, I
online,
would
right?
agree, but how they made the story out seemed like there could be like an actual story to the game, which is why I'm asking.
Be
I
interesting.
couldn't find an answer, so
Yeah, there is an actual story, but I actually don't know if it's online only or what have
yeah.
you.
Yeah, so essentially from what the story I got, it was humanity was dying. This Lemnis Gate was the way to loop through time and, repopulate Earth or whatever. Like you're on the last generation of humans is what they made it out to be. The goal is to defend your timeline while I guess opening more to benefit you and like layering new characters on. I can't wrap my mind around it without actually physically seeing how the game plays.
Fair enough.
So for me, obviously you guys covered, I feel like a lot of the basis. I went a little bit more in depth of it. Just one thinking about just creating this game made my mind almost blow up. Like the balance that would have to come from creating it seems so over the top. Being able to balance the characters and then figuring out what's overpowered, what's not, what works, what doesn't. Um, there's just a lot going on, a lot of moving parts. Even though obviously it's only one person moving at a time, I like the fact that so one player goes, I don't know, and this is a thing too I'm thinking of, right? One character, maybe they have an advantage, like we don't know right now, but maybe you have an advantage going second, or maybe you have an advantage going first, right? And then going back and forth, like it's a coin flip, and then but this is the negative: is it a coin flip and it's all of a sudden like 60-40, like you're just favored to win because you went first?
Oh yeah.
That's because that's similar to how Hearthstone is, where back in the day when they were trying to balance the coin of going first and second, the that was the closest way to get it to like 50-50 as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So Obviously you won't know this until you actually start playing it. But I like how when player one goes, you've got player two hovering over in a some air,
Like a little
flying,
drone, yeah.
yeah, a little drone or something, right? And you get to watch and observe what player one does, and then based on that, you can kind of coordinate and plan what your attack's going to be when it's your turn. So I watched a little bit of gameplay too of I think it was like IGN or something like that. They played a little bit of it, and you would think like, okay, maybe it's like capture the flag, and you're gonna instantly go and try to grab the flag. What the dude did first turn was instead he just laid as many turrets as possible. And he's like, I want this, so it's like a minefield where wherever you go, you're getting shot at. And it's like I think there's a lot of deep strategy in this game, which this definitely falls out of my wheelhouse, but is honestly more in my wheelhouse because of the in-depth, I guess, thought process behind it, right?
Mhm.
So you have a total of 10 turns, so each player gets 5 characters apiece going back and forth.
Mhm.
That also is nice, so you get to plan that accordingly. Bravo already went over the game modes. There's also, as of right now, only 4 maps. It looks like they have more on their website if you look at it available. Don't know if that means they're going to release when the game does or if it's for like DLC. Also, for classes, we have 4. They're called operatives, but they're basically classes. It shows 7 slots right now, but we only have 4 of them. And the classes so far are a toxin, which has a poisonous cannon, and if you shoot on the ground, it creates like a damage zone that impacts them when they run over it. And also has an alternative, which is a displacer that teleports a character to another location. You've got the striker, which has a rifle, a long range rifle. The ripple is their alternative, which slows time for a short period of time. You got the captain, has that's probably the most basic one, just has an automatic rifle and a frag grenade.
Right.
And then Carl, which has a precision beam. This is like a robot guy. And he does low continuous damage, but it's highly accurate. And then his alternative is a protection orb, deploys a defensive shield to protect objectives or teammates. And from the gameplay I've seen, it looks very small. Like it could only really go around one character.
Mhm.
Very small radius. Yeah, the game super intriguing though. Like if it wasn't for this, like I've said, game that would have went right over my head. Never would have probably heard of it. All right, so that's all I have for these games. Unless you guys have anything else to add, we can move on to Joe's picks.
So my first game I want to talk about today is Age of Empires 4. I'm a big fan of Age of Empires 2. I like real-time strategy games in general, as long as they're not the ones that take actual days to play. But I really hope this game holds up to Age of Empires 2. They haven't showed us too much to get us really excited outside of just visuals and some combat. And I'm definitely gonna get it day one. It comes to Game Pass, so I do have that. It, I really hope they make a good balanced game so there's a competitive scene in this because that's what's gonna keep this game alive. Like Age of Empires 2, which is now 22 years old and still going strong in the competitive scene.
Nice.
Um, if they don't have a competitive scene, I see this game maybe being popular for about 4 to 6 months and dying off.
The game
But
looks popular, or I'm sorry, it looks good. It's got the updated graphics. I wonder if they'll try new mechanics, or if they'll try to do like a carbon copy of Age of Empires 2. What do you think, Joe?
they're gonna add something new, and that's what scares me.
Is there anything from 2 that you would like to improve on?
Realistically, I think Age of Empires 2 is almost a perfect RTS game as a whole. They could maybe do better with like the randomization map generation, because there are maps, that sometimes you get and you're just at a disadvantage right away,
Mm-hmm.
and that's probably all. Age of Empires 2 is so well balanced. pretty insane that they were able to pull it off in the 90s.
Yeah, and my only hope for the game is that it's got a good tutorial, online play, and perhaps they do some kind of ranking system for competitive play or something. Because the way that the community has come together for competitive, it'd be nice to just have a built-in mechanic for that, so people can
Yes.
compare each other.
So they do have that. Essentially, it's just like I don't want to say just like League and all that, but it's a MMR system. So you win, you gain points; you lose points based on how far of a difference your competitor is. If you're a 1,000, I'm a 2,000 level player, and we play, and I lose, you're probably going up to 1,200, and I'm probably dropping down to 1,500 because
Mm.
I'm not supposed to lose.
Hmm.
But they do have that built in,
Was
at
that
least in Age of Empires 2.
was that default?
Yes, as far as I'm aware, they've
Wow,
always had a rating
that is
system.
that is awesome. That's crazy. What about you, Brad?
So I didn't have too much to add to this, as I feel like this is 100% Joe's wheelhouse, and I I've only dabbled in RTSs minimally, mainly like StarCraft way back in the day, and I touched a little bit of Warcraft 3 also, but they're fun casually for me. Once you get to any competitive aspect, I struggle big time.
I resonate with
'Cause-
that so much.
Mhm.
It stresses me
So
out to play these RTS games competitively.
I want to play them, but then I'm just like I feel like I'm not there. I feel like it's just like just move on. This is past your prime. You're not
So, so
you're not
Brad,
doing this.
to make you feel any better, um, if you there's a YouTuber, his name's T90 Official. He's all Age of Empires 2. He does this like sub series that he does. It's called Low Elo Legends, and he goes and finds like some of the worst players, lowest rated players in the game, whether it be because they just do funny strats or they're just not good, or like they played back in '99 when it came out and just have never changed the way they play.
Mhm.
And so once you get down to that elo, it's just a train wreck amongst what actually happens. And he'll like watch it and commentate on it and make jokes at the times where people do funny things. But he also like gives like actual feedback that if the players come back and watch, they could possibly learn from. 100% worth a watch.
Hmm.
And some of the legends, are in his Twitch streams and YouTube all the time talking.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sounds pretty interesting actually. I'll have to look them up for sure. So I feel like we all kind of noted this that graphically it does look nice.
Mhm.
I do feel like though one thing is style of gameplay that these games have. You don't really need to have a super beautiful game because of how it is, and it you can kind of get away with worse graphics in an RTS because it's not really focused on it. Like it's all about the I feel like balance of the game.
I
Obviously, it goes with a lot of games.
I disagree. I want to be able to zoom in on the garlic in the storefront and know exactly how many cloves of garlic there
Yes. Well, you will know that Diablo, 100%.
These games,
Want to see?
graphics definitely aren't the selling point, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think that's what I'm trying to get at. Is like that's not what the main point of it is, and I wouldn't want them to spend a ton of their time and effort on the graphics, making it as beautiful as possible when they can optimize maybe how the game runs and just balance it overall, right? I
Mhm.
think that's the main selling point. So I more so have a question for Joe because I feel like we already asked what implementations we would like to see added.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
he said there really isn't much to it because Age of Empire 2 is already so darn near perfect. But what would this game need to like I feel like there's a lot of games out there that struggle to dethrone the best of the platform, right? So what is it that Age of Empire 4 needs to do to dethrone Age of Empire 2?
Okay, this is a complicated question. I'm not, the all-seeing eye when it comes to Age of Empires 2, but a lot of the game has nostalgia for a lot of people. I mean, coming out late 90s, so it's been through, you know, how many players' hands at this point, being 22 years old. But So nostalgia is going to work against Age of Empires 4 no matter what comes out. It could be a great game, and it's always going to have to fight against the people saying Age of Empires 2 is the best and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
To actually dethrone it in most players' eyes, I think it's going to need to have a little bit better balance amongst civilizations. It's going to need to essentially just improve on what they already have a stepping stone of. Since Microsoft got their hands on Age of Empires and released the definitive editions, and we got a big graphical upgrade just in that in itself for Age of Empires 2 and 3. Graphics aren't going to be a big factor by any means. Like they could have kept the same graphic style and just made the game run a little smoother, and people probably would have went nuts for it.
Yep.
And I think they need to make it as accessible as possible, which I think they're doing with it coming to Game Pass. It's going to be on console. It just try to get more people involved in the Age of Empires community, and they need to push the competitive scene.
Is it going to be cross-platform?
Yes, it is between Xbox and PC, are the definitive edition for 2 and 3 already.
That is juicy.
So what I'm hearing from this, you're saying there's a chance.
It's got the potential.
It's got a
Everything
chance.
always has a potential. We realistically don't know almost anything about this game. All we know is when it's coming. Actually, I don't even think they gave us an exact date, but it was like October something.
Mhm.
And how it looks.
It better
That's
be
basically
September,
all we know.
because the original came out September 1999. They have an opportunity to release it September 2021.
It'll be. I hope it does good. I really do.
A bold move, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off.
It says October 28th, 2021 it'll be on Game Pass.
There we go.
They have already failed in my eyes.
But moving on from Age of Empires, since you guys don't have too much of a background with that game, let's get into one of the heavy hitters that everyone's been waiting for with Elden Ring. Game looks incredible. We got the release date, January 21st, 2022. Way sooner than I anticipated. I realistically was ready to wait till 2024 for this game and be completely happy waiting that long. But the trailer we saw, becoming a tarnished, open world, you have the ability to ride mounts around the world. You could jump, just standing still, like jump. The interview with Miyazaki, he said that, there's going to be 6 main, air quote, dungeons, each belonging to a demigod, which is going to be like the main storyline of the game. And then throughout the world, there's going to be multiple smaller dungeons and castles throughout that you can go through, fight little mini bosses, loot random enemies, all that fun stuff. There's going to be over 100 different combat skills that are not linked to a weapon, meaning that some of the move sets you would get for specific weapons in the old games were locked to specific weapon or weapon types. In this game, they're doing away with that, and it's going to be a little more customizable. And the game just looks incredible. The art style, hopefully the story is good. They had George R.R. Martin involved in it. The bosses look incredible. It looks like they took every FromSoft game, Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and just smashed it together and said, "Here you go." And I am super excited.
The scariest part of this, or I guess the most intimidating part of this, is the combat skills being separated from the weapons. I don't exactly understand how that's going to happen. Like, are you going to be able to have like a giant hammer animation with a finesse weapon or something? Like, I don't know. We'll have to figure out more details on that. Another note is the jumping. I wonder if the jumping is going to be what I would call like a fake pseudo jump, or if it's actually going to have some relevance. Like old school games, you could jump, but you physically couldn't jump over anything important. So I wonder if there's actually going to be some verticality to the game where you can jump on a box, you jump on a thing, climb a ladder, do whatever.
I'm sure it's going to come down to this, that speedrunners are going to find out that you move 0.07% faster while jumping every single second of the game. and that'll be the optimized way.
Yeah. Another note that I have is the open world aspect of this game. One big issue with open worlds is that it's open, and there's a lot of vast emptiness to those open worlds. So you spend a lot of time blindly running from one location to the other, which people find boring. But in this game, they have roaming bands of enemies that between different playthroughs or different times of day, you will come across a group of enemies at one location, because they've physically moved to that spot, which is super cool. You never know when you're going to interact with a certain kind of enemy.
Yep. So a couple things that stuck out to me is I don't know why I get a little bit of Shadow of the Colossus vibes from this game,
Oh.
which it could just be because you're riding a horse in this, I don't know, kind of eerie world. Maybe it's something as simple as that.
Yeah.
But it's cool. The place is actually called the Land Between that George R. Martin named, and it's blessed by the Elden Ring, and the Elden Ring shattered. And because of the shattering, war broke out, and everybody was trying to obtain these runes or shards, whatever you want to call them. So, it, I think that's going to be somewhat of the goal, is to obtain these shards from the demigods. I think each demigod holds one of them, or a piece of it, and that's actually what morphed them, from what I remember. The other cool thing too to note is if you don't want to just travel everywhere on foot or by horse, they do have a fast travel implemented into the game. So that's not anything revolutionary, but it's just something neat to kind of point out. Uh, they've already went on record stating there's multiple endings to the game, so numerous playthroughs can be had. I I think that's definitely a great feature
Mm-hmm.
to add on to the fact that we have a probably 30-plus hour game already. From what Miyazaki says, he's roughly estimating 30 hours of content just running through the story without doing side quests.
Oh yes.
Boy.
Yeah, massive amount of content for Big Joe over there. He
But
can get
Miyazaki did not factor in us constantly jumping. So instead of a 30-minute game, it's a 29-minute or 30
29
hour,
hour.
29 minute, 29-hour game. Yeah,
I was about
Joe
to
will
say,
find a way to finish it in 29 minutes.
29 minutes.
Man.
I don't think any of us have mentioned it, but the Pokemon aspect to it, where you can actually summon creatures you've defeated to help
Oh,
to help you fight, just like a Pokemon. So I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna find Charizard. He will be mine, and we will fight together. That's gonna happen.
I'll take Psyduck. Weird guy.
there's
But,
also crafting and customizing. I believe they talked about a little bit.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's on the go too. So I don't think you have to be at like an encampment site or anything. I think you could just do it right wherever you want to be. Just kind of craft the materials, whatever.
Take that, Breath of the Wild. Yeah.
They also have a spirits, but this is essentially like a mercenary system.
Mm-hmm.
They're NPCs that help you out, and there's a ton of different types of them. So they didn't exactly say, but one of them that they mentioned was an archer. I'm just speculating that there's going to be some sort of like support NPC or a tank, just a whole bunch of different that go with your playstyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
These can also be leveled up, but they're not replacing the player summons that the Dark Soul community is used to. So, if you're a person that like to summon people and do the co-op multiplayer style of the Dark Souls games, that's still there for you.
The way they described the co-op version, though, seemed like you could only have the co-op interaction with your friends in specific areas, and not
Yes.
travel the whole map together.
It seems like only in dungeons could friends be summoned, not in like the open world aspect of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing too, which we've already kind of mentioned, Joe mentioned this, that it seems like they're pulling everything they've learned from each game, and they've pulled Sekiro a bit, but they've just made a simplistic stealth combat by adding the ability to crouch in like tall grass and sneak up behind enemies. Not sure if that's something people are super excited about, but I think it's nice just that the options there. And one thing, I don't know how this is going to go over for the community itself, but Miyazaki said the difficulty is considered more manageable than I think the previous game. So this might end up being one of the easier games to complete. I don't know what more manageable means in his eyes, because this is a man that's created nothing but the hardest games in the past decade. But does this mean that most people can pick up and play this, or you know, or are we talking like only the hardcore guys are going to get throughout the whole game?
As much as I would rather the game be as hard as the other ones, with it being roughly 30 hours of content, I feel like it needs to be more manageable. Because if we say this is Bloodborne or Sekiro or Dark Souls 1 difficulty, 30 hours could easily turn into, 120, and people just don't get through the game.
Oh yeah.
Additionally,
I mean,
you can, since you have stealth and mercenaries and these other things in here, it's just going to make the open world probably a bit more easy. So, as long as they have the dungeons or the world boss areas uh, created in such a way that you can't stealth or step up on a rock and the boss can't attack you, cheese the bosses or whatever, I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be good.
I think as long as, which I have no doubts that they're gonna nail this, because every game has been fun to play, right? As long as they nail the combat and make things like enjoyable to go through the game, uh, I think that having an easier game is a fine thing to do. Obviously, the difficulty in being able to learn from your mistakes and learning the actual game is super fun, but at the same time, it's nice to sit down and actually finish a game.
Mm-hmm.
At least from my standpoint, I'm a person that I haven't beaten all of the Dark Souls games. But looks like also there is a day-night cycle, and there's also weather in the game. They haven't said anything really about the weather, but just a little thing that I've noticed. What they said for the day-night cycle is like at nighttime, the enemies will have a harder time seeing you, so it's easier to sneak up on them.
Hmm.
So realistically, the game looks absolutely phenomenal, and I had no doubts that this game was gonna blow everybody away once we actually did see it, because From Software has just been banging out games as of late. Like, I don't know what happened. They went from like I've never even heard of them, and then all of a sudden, boom! Now they're just like one of the top developers.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of crazy.
You're welcome.
I would just like to point out January 21st, don't bother me for at least a couple days.
That's how I feel about Diablo 2 Remaster. I already told the Resurrected, excuse me. Gotta say the correct word. I already told the fiance. I'm like, just to let you know,
I've got a meeting.
I might be MIA for a couple days. just let you know. But I don't really have anything else to go with Elden Ring. What about you guys?
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
But we could also move on to another one I can't wait for, with the Breath of the Wild sequel. I don't want to call it Breath of the Wild 2 because they announced there is a name for it, but they're not releasing it because of spoilers. But the game looks like we're picking up right where we left off with the original Breath of the Wild. It looks like Link got himself into an unfortunate smelting accident and got himself a new arm. They said it's going to be released in 2022. Can't wait to get more information on like a quarter estimate or an official title. And it looks like Calamity Ganon's back at it, and Hyrule Castle's floating in the air. And I'm curious to see what it turns out to be.
Yeah, I've got a name proposition for you, okay? Since the castle's floating in the air and whatnot, Breath of the Wild, Skyward Rocks. How about that? Solid name. Get it? Because the rocks are floating in the sky. and it's a play on names for the. I'm getting blank stares.
Skyward Sword? Is that a
I
play
did
on
it,
that one
but
too?
No, Skyward Rock, because
No, I'm
Skyward
saying
Sword.
yeah, I'm saying Skyward Sword is already games. I thought it was a play on that too.
It is.
It is.
It's
it is.
layers. It's
Oh.
like an onion. It's got layers.
All right, we're done.
Oh, cutting up. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I hope for this game to have harder shrines. That's it. Just give me more abilities and harder shrines. That's it.
Yeah. So one thing I want to point out for speculation here. Now, I don't know if this is just a coincidence or they always plan this, but Zelda is always an in-between title. So it comes out on like Wii U and Switch. Comes out on GameCube and Wii. Just seems like they've been really doing that. So hear me out. Is this one that how many times has Switch Pro been mentioned? But is this when the actual Switch Pro is released? Is day one release with Breath of the Wild 2?
Ooh, that is actually pretty solid speculation.
That is very good speculation.
I
But
think it's going to be in October, just like Breath of the Wild 1. And it's going to be with the Switch Pro. I think that's the day one game, and everybody's going to go out and buy it. And you're going to be scalping it for about $2,000.
Do we think it's going to be a Switch Pro or a Switch 2 with that logic?
I think,
Because
I don't
Switch
know.
Pro
Yeah.
wouldn't be cross console like the other ones. It would just be
Well,
same console.
So the only thing is there was the 3DS and then the new 3DS, and they've had specific games that were not playable on the 3DS and only on the new 3DS. Right? So, and that's kind of like an in-between step, kind of similar to like PlayStation and PlayStation 4 Pro, right? I don't know. I don't think they really mess with the Switch itself. I think they just make beefier Switches from now on. Like realistically, I feel like they nailed the console itself by having this home console and on-the-go hybrid. Now, does that mean that they're just doing Switch Pro and Switch Pro Plus and then Switch Pro Plus Plus or something, or the Super Switch Pro? I don't know. Yeah, I think it can go either way, honestly. But I do think that's an interesting thought.
It is, and
I
not
could
something
see
I
this.
considered.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see this happening. But going away from more speculation stuff and just talking, well, I guess it's a little bit of speculation. But his new arm is one thing I wanted to point out. Joe already mentioned it, but it looks like it's made out of the Sheikah slate stuff. Like it kind of gives me a little bit of that vibe.
For
Now,
sure.
is it a good thing that he has this arm, or is it a bad thing? Did like a fish eat it, or did he like put on this armor over his arm essentially just to get some extra powers, kind of like the Sheikah slate helped him out with some powers? I don't know. The floating islands looked really cool. Moving on though, I really liked the look. This game though, nobody can take away that Breath of the Wild is an absolutely gorgeous game.
Right.
It's they know what they're doing over there.
Yeah.
I also noticed oh, go ahead.
It's a unique art style that will hold up over time, regardless of what year it is. I think it'll always be a game people come back and play.
It gives me a feel of the cell shaded stuff, right? Like it's not 100% cell shaded, but it has that same feel like Wind Waker did. And everybody made fun of Wind Waker back in the day when it first came out, and now it's like it's crazy how well it holds up, right? So I think it's gonna be the same thing with this. The game's never gonna be like, oh, that looks like crap. Maybe that's something that Nintendo does specifically.
Yeah.
I think it is, and it makes a lot of sense logically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I do have
So
one comment on here where it looks like Zelda could take a more of a direct role in this game. And I was wondering how a super fan such as Joe takes that. Like, what if Zelda is more directly involved in the story or the playthrough over Link, kind of like what the Ratchet and Clank game did, where you played the alternative character instead of Ratchet. How do you feel about that?
I personally love the idea. Um, I think it would just be an interesting twist. So one thing that I'm really scared of with this game is it looks like the land of Hyrule is the exact same layout as the first Breath of the Wild, as to be expected if it's a continuation.
Hmm.
There can't, I physically can't think of many other things they could add to this game to make it a new game and not just feel like an expansion.
Hmm.
Something like switching it up and playing more Zelda into a new, it's not just about Link saving Zelda and give it a different story could be a good way to mix it up.
Yeah.
Uh, one thing I was gonna say that mix it up, possibly. Another speculation here, but could they do a play of the light world, dark world thing again? I mean, we've seen that before, and it's a way that they can keep the same kind of assets and reutilize the world, but have its own unique twist.
I think that would work in this game as well, and I think the art style would be pretty interesting in like a Dark World version.
Yeah, for sure.
What is the name of the um, Earth creatures from Ocarina of Time?
The, wait, what do you
Earth
mean the
creatures.
Earth creatures?
Yeah,
The Goro guys, the big
yeah,
dudes,
yeah, the guys that live in the mountain.
the Gorons.
Gorons.
Yes.
Yeah, the
How did I know that?
so
I wasn't following.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was trying to find it. I couldn't find it. But
Yeah.
anyways, with the Earth rising, there's going to be great voids in the map, presumably, where things are now floating. So you could have the Gorons, I don't know, like emerge from below the Earth and actually have some depth downward into the game or into the map, and bring in the whole different species or cities involved in the game. I think that'd be pretty cool.
I know you didn't get too far into the game, but the first Breath of the Wild did have Gorons.
I did not make it to that.
Okay, yeah. It was at the volcano in like the top northeast of the map, but yeah, they were in the game.
Hmm. Well, there you go.
So I got two more things to mention that I just thought were neat. They're kind of small stuff. So just flamethrower arm attachment, possibly. It's just
I dig it.
I
yeah.
dig it.
I'll never say no to a flamethrower. All you need is a little bit of Damian Marley with Skrillex and some weed plants, and we're golden, baby.
Oh,
That will listen. I'll give Breath of the Wild 2 Game of the Year if they do that. But last thing that I think is sick was the phasing through the ground. This I think opens up a lot of opportunity for the game for traversal too. Really neat. Haven't really seen any phasing like this. I mean, yes, there's like Portal where we've had something I guess maybe similar to this, but done a bit differently. Never where like you actually see him kind of like it almost looks like he's like crawling out of the ground, right? It seemed neat.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see how people implement it, like the people that do all the tricks in the first Breath of the Wild, where they come to like the starting island and charge up a random thing and send it flying and ride straight in to fight Ganon with Deku stick. But it'll be interesting to see what that does to the game and how it changes things up.
I know that it's been a lot of speculation, which is probably what most of this is, because really it wasn't a very long trailer. There wasn't much for us to go off of, but um, I've got a feeling that the floating islands are going to minimize the amount that you can just straight go to Ganon, right? I feel like it's going to make you have to work a little bit more just because of the structure of how islands work. Like I unless there's some way that you could start and just like hyper jump into
yeah.
the furthest island or something, right? Like I just got a feeling that there's gonna be some far out island you have to go to. That's where whoever the main boss is gonna be, Ganon, whatever. Maybe a rock. Who knows? But yeah, something. Maybe yes, no, Joe.
I don't know. I feel like they intentionally did it with Breath of the Wild, that you could just go straight to the end if you want to. Obviously, it'd be miserable because the difficulty of it, and you get hit once, you're basically dead, all that stuff. But I feel like that was an intended thing, and I don't know. I don't see a reason why they would try to get rid of something like that, but I could see the reason in this game how it would be more difficult to pull off.
Yeah, I do think it's a good. That is one thing I will say I like is that hey, if you want to just go right to the end, you can go to the end for that game.
Yeah,
It's
pretty
definitely neat.
pretty interesting.
Neat.
I personally don't really care about the end game. I just want to explore the world and have fun with the shrines and little critters and stuff around the world. And that
I just want to watch Joe play it.
is.
Well, you're in for a long ride because, like I said, the first Breath of the Wild, I just finished it, yesterday or the day before, for the first time.
Yeah.
I've owned it since release day.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody's curious, all we do is sit around and watch each other play video games. That's literally it. But that's all.
When we have time, we do.
Yeah, that's all the notes I have on Breath of the Wild 2. Skyward Rock.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Another one to add to the collection. Another collector's edition to get my hands on.
More
I could
money. Yeah, so how about you listeners? Who do you think won E3? What was the game of the show? What was the game of this episode? What are you most looking forward to? Let us know on all the platforms. Twitter is at envision_org. YouTube, just go ahead and search Envision Gaming Podcast, or you can email us at envisiongamingpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next time.